And while he was still speaking, behold, a multitude. And he who was called Judas, one of the 12, went before them and drew near to Jesus to kiss him. But Jesus said to him, Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss? When those around him saw what was going to happen, they said to him, Lord, shall we strike with the sword? And one of them struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his right ear. But Jesus answered and said, permit even this. And he touched his ear and healed him. Then Jesus said to the chief priests, captains of the temple, and the elders who had come to him, have you come out as against a robber with swords and clubs? When I was with you daily in the temple, you did not try to seize me. But this is your hour and the power of darkness. Amen. We have followed Jesus from the upper room into the garden, and we've heard that suffering is the path to glory. Last time we sat at the Master's feet and we saw the way in which he prayed through his trial, and so commends prayer as the way that we are to follow him. And here we're asked to further contemplate the night that has come for the head, so that we as the body might in some ways be helped to make sense of the night that is coming for us. As he was numbered with the transgressors, so we will be numbered with the transgressors. And as I speak metaphorically of the night, though here it is a literal night, I'm talking about how it is that we are to make sense of what are really hard and costly and sad periods in our Christian experience. How are we to make sense of the night? And so I begin here with this point, divine permission. Divine permission. So I want to talk here of the careful line between sovereignty, freedom, agency, intent, and accountability. On the one hand, we confess that God has ordained all that comes to pass, but at the same time, he does this through the free acts of his creatures, so that no violence is done to their will, and that he is not the author of sin. And we see it played out here on this terrible night. Here is Jesus in an intimate moment with the Father. He is bringing the weakness of his flesh before him, the flesh we said that was tearing apart at the seams, and he's there with the disciples, and he's leading them, but he's training, and he's trying to prepare them for the onslaught that is going to come upon them, and he's in this sacred, secret place with them. And it is here then violated by this marching filth of the hateful band that intrude upon that holy place. Jesus looks up, and who is leading the crowd in verse 47? It is his friend. It is his disciple. It is his colleague who has walked with him for these past 3 years. Judas is approaching Jesus, and he draws near in verse 47. And what Luke tells us is he doesn't kiss him, though he does kiss him. But what Luke says is that he loves him. Judas drew near to love Jesus, and Jesus says to me, are you betraying me with love? And of course, practically, again, the implication is that he kissed him. But I think that Luke deliberately is drawing us back to this concept of love so that we would feel the sacrilege of what is going on here. The blasphemy against the holy love of God. Here is God's love walking on earth to a disciple, and Judas is making a mockery of it. He's making a pretense of this most blessed gift that God has made us for and gifted us with by his grace. It is so dirty, and it cuts so deeply for Christ. The only way to understand what is going on here is like an adultery. Like, can you actually imagine it? Husband or wife, to know that your husband or wife had been violated, had defiled his or herself with some other person, had broken the marital covenant. This is what is going on here. Judas betrays love. Judas betrays Jesus. And then you see the cowardly rabble. In verse 52, playing the big man. They've come out to Jesus with swords and clubs. And Jesus says to them in verse 53, he's like, wait a minute. I was right there amongst you in the temple, innocent and unarmed, and you never touched me. And now you're coming out acting like you are the ones who are overpowering me, whilst like cowards under the cover of night, afraid of the people. This cowardly rabble arresting Jesus like a common thief. And what of the rest of the 12 in all of this mess? They crumble into a rash worldliness. Shall we fight? Verse 49, and without any hesitation, verse 50, one of the disciples, we know it's Peter, but Luke says it was just one of the disciples. Why? He would always have us understand it could have been any one of them. It could have been you. One of the disciples steps forward and he hacks off a man's ear. From a certain perspective, it could look here as though everything that Jesus has tried to build is falling to ruin. His own disciples collapse. One of them apostatizes. The lost in this rabble are still lost, though he has come to find them. And love has been abandoned. It is almost as though here we have a replay of Genesis chapter 3. Man once again is choosing death. Man once again is rejecting God, just as Adam did in the garden. And at times it seems, and maybe it seems to you, it should seem to you, that we are stuck in like an endless repeat, as though the disc is damaged and Genesis 3 just keeps playing over and over again in our lives and the lives of the people we know. And it feels as though God has abandoned this world, God has abandoned the church, God has abandoned us. But it's not like that at all. You see, with Jesus, things are different. God is not losing here, but he is advancing. It might look as though it is death and darkness, but Jesus is advancing his purposes. We've been considering this in the weeks leading up to this. But see, even here, as you have the profanation of love, as you have the cowardly rabble, as you have the falling apart of the disciples, you have Jesus in the center, you have Jesus in the midst. And he is in perfect control. He is in perfect control of himself. He doesn't react here as we would react. He's not flustered, he is calm. Every step he takes and every word that he utters is completely measured. You see the perfect control over his disciples in verse 51. As he says to them, no, permit even this. Allow the band to take me. And these men who've been stirred up in violent passion so as to cut off a man's ear. And you know what it's like when you're really angry? There is no reasoning with you. And yet, just like the calming of the storming seas, Christ with a word brings the disciples to order. He is in complete control of everything that is going on, even of the material world, as he goes to the servant of the high priest in verse 51 and presumably picks up his ear from the ground, and there he takes it and he nestles it onto the side of the man's head. And the body is restored and healed. Here is a Christ in control of himself, of the disciples, of the bands that have come to take him, even of the material creation itself, perfectly in control, though it looked like death and darkness. And so God is not losing. He is at work and he is advancing here through the night. And this, of course, has always been the plan. As we said, verse 37, he must be numbered with the transgressors. The end concerning me, the things concerning me, they have an end. And of course, then, this is the lens that we are to don through the hard and costly seasons of our own lives. When those periods come that we wish would not come, we use this as a frame of reference. We use this as the spectacles that we are to put on. It feels like Genesis 3 all over again. It feels like the world is falling apart. It feels like God has surely abandoned us, and yet, right in the midst, just as it seems that way, God is still advancing his purposes in the world. God is still commanding blessing and goodness for his people. But does that mean then, and we know that part already, but does that mean then that we are to dismiss the evils that were done as though they were nothing because God was going to make them something? Because this is somehow how it comes off. And sometimes we think this is how we are supposed to think. Like if we have embraced this idea that God is absolutely sovereign and he will bring good from evil, does that mean the evils are just nothing then? That what was done to us doesn't matter? Worse, are we to conclude that it was God? And this is a real error, where we begin to say, God did this to me because God is in control. No, God did not do this to you. Jesus here is in perfect control, as I've highlighted, and yet notice in verse 53, he condemns the acts as evil. This is the power of darkness. I am in control of all of this, but this is the power of darkness. It's not me. It is the power of the evil one at work. Notice how he assigns full culpability to all of the actors involved. In verse 48, he says to Judas, "Are you betraying me?" You understand this, Judas? This is not God. This is you. You are the betrayer. You are betraying the Son of God. He says the same to the rabble that come to him in verse 52. Are you coming out with clubs and swords? Nobody has forced your hand. This is what you are choosing to do. You intend this great evil against me. This is your hour, he says to them in verse 53. And so we're like, well, how can both be true? How can Jesus be in perfect control? How can God be sovereign and yet men be free and guilty before him? And I think the key is these words in verse 51. Permit even this. A great evil is being done against Jesus. The disciples are fuming at the injustice of it. And he is able to say to them, permit, allow even this. Now, this doesn't unravel the entire mystery of sovereignty and agency, but I really do think it safeguards us from error. The Lord is absolutely in control, but how is he in control? Well, by human analogy, by allowing certain evil people to run their evil course and to do their evil deeds in such a way that he is able to bring about some good and wise and loving outcome, and at the same time have nothing to do with the sin, the darkness that is at work, which wholly belongs to the agents involved. Permit even this. This matters very much, because when you go through your own night, you do need to understand that the Lord is not hurting and injuring you. The Lord is not doing evil against you. The Lord did not kill your child. The Lord has permitted. The Lord has comfortingly set the bounds. He has set the limits. He has set the duration of the trial according to his love and wisdom. But he is not the one who is hurting and injuring and intending evil against you. God delights not in your sorrow, tears, or pain, but he will use even them for your good. And he will redeem, but he will never excuse evil. He will redeem it, but he does not excuse it. The evil belongs, well, to Satan and to those who have inflicted evil against you. The good belongs to God. So divine permission. But just to develop the thought a little bit more, we see it secondly under this heading, bewilderment. So what I really want you to see is that suffering and evil, though it is appointed by God, is nevertheless real. God is not intending your harm, and we're not expected to embrace it like some caricatured Calvinist robot. Okay, so when bad stuff happens, you're not expected to be like, switch into character. Oh no, my house has burned down. My children are dead. My cat has been run over. I have lost my job. But that's okay because God is in control. Switching to joy mode. Like, that is not it. Consider the mysterious bewilderment of Christ. He foreknows everything that is going to happen. He is in control of the entire situation, and yet still he's somehow astonished and startled at Judas's betrayal. Judas, verse 48, are you doing this? Are you really going through with this? Are you doing this to me? Are you betraying the Son of Man and making a pretense of love? Notice how in disbelief at the delusion and the pettiness of these men, he asks them, have you really come out against me as a robber with swords and clubs when I was with you daily in the temple and you did not try to seize me? On one hand, Christ knows exactly what is happening, and on the other hand, it seems he's blindsided by the whole thing. What's going on here? This is not ignorance. It's not ignorance on the part of Christ. I tell you what it is. It is the bewilderment of love. That's what's going on. Listen to some quotations from the fathers. Ambrose says, concerning Christ's answer to Judas, it must be used, I think, by way of question, as if he arrests the traitor with a lover's affection. Are you doing this to me, Judas? Chrysostom, he gives him his proper name, Judas, which was rather like one lamenting and recalling him than one provoked to anger. Judas, you're one of my own. Don't do this. Ambrose, paraphrasing Christ's response, dost thou inflict a wound with the pledge of love? Dost thou impose death with instruments of peace? Wouldst thou, the slave, betray thy Lord? Wouldst thou, the disciple, betray thy master? Wouldst thou, the chosen, betray him who chose thee? This is not a response of ignorance. It is the bewilderment of love. Here is love that thinks no evil, that believes all things, that hopes all things. And it is staring at his very creation that has been made for him and that has been made to be like him. He's looking at his very disciple who he has poured himself into. He has treasured and he has chosen. And he is wounded and he is horrified and he is traumatized at the depths, the depravity, the brokenness of the creation that he had made and that he has come to redeem. It is love that is heartbroken, love that is truly shocked and astonished at the depths that man has fallen to. And you might say, why does any of this matter? Because I think here the Lord is validating a just, human, and loving response to the nights that befall us. You're not asked to be the caricatured Calvinist robot. Well, everything is under God's control, so it doesn't matter. The evil, the pains, the horror, the betrayals, none of it matters. No, it does matter. As a saint, we can legitimately say, this is awful. This is painful, and I absolutely hate these circumstances. I hate these people. It is also wrong. It is evil. It is demonic. Why? Because I know we, us humans, were not made for this. Why? Because here is the voice and the response of love within my own life. This shouldn't be. Yes, God is going to use those nights for his glory and for the blessing of your soul and for your sanctification. But the evil is real. And the intent of those who have harmed you was real. It is not wrong for you to be bewildered and horrified at what is happening to you as it is happening, though God is in control. Nevertheless, you can say, my Jesus is on the throne. I'm not expected to embrace this like a robot. I can have a human and I can have a loving and I can have a just response to all that has happened to me. And I can be heartbroken. But I also can know that even here in the depths of my misery, God is at work. God in his wisdom, and all of his perfection and holiness and his commitment to me is at work for my good. I can grieve and I can also rejoice. Psalm 139, verse 10. Even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. And if I say, surely the darkness shall fall on me, even the night shall be light about me. Indeed, the darkness shall not hide from you, but the night shines as the day. The darkness and the light are both alike to you. There's still darkness, and there is still light. But God is able to take both darkness and light and to make it as light to you. But you are not expected to like and love and rejoice every part of it as you drink down the bitter cup. So divine permission, and then bewilderment. And then finally, one last brief thought. Remaining committed to love. So, having said all of this, sometimes you still just got to get through the night. You still just got to get through the hard and the difficult time. And far from pontificating in the moment about sovereignty and agency and purpose, your mind and your heart will be like scrambled eggs. Your rational faculties will have given up the ghost, your emotions in haywire. You'll feel at times imprisoned and incapacitated by the trial that you are being put through. You just don't know what to do. You don't know where to turn. You have no words. But there is always a thread. There is always a fine thread that you can find and you can pick up and you can follow till you're out the other side. And that thread is love. Jesus never forsakes love. This whole episode is the love of God. Here is the love of God being poured out for man. But even as Jesus is thrown into this blender of disloyalty and disgrace, of devils and of death, he does not forsake love. The very deluded, perhaps hateful man who has come to take him and see to his eventual passing over to the hands of the Romans to suffer this awful, torturous death, stands before him, and Jesus cannot but be moved with compassion and chooses to bless this man with his final miracle and to heal and to restore him. We touched on this in one of the other sermons, but what grace and what light to take even the foolishness of the disciples and take this as an opportunity to remind them, look, I am in control. Look, I will take your errors and I will bring good from them. And look, you must, as I have taught you, and I am showing you, love your enemies, love those who hate you. And that might seem like nothing. But if you remember back honestly to any particular dark periods, you know full well that you can get lost and disorientated. But finding someone and some way to love may just be your salvation. Yes, in preserving your witness. Yes, in being light within the darkness. But crucially, when you are silenced, dumbstruck, paralyzed, in being that little fine thread, let me just find some way, somebody to love. And in this way, I pick up my little thread and I follow it until I am out the other side of this night, until the day and the light has broken. And so, yes, as we go through the night, we think of divine permission. The Lord is in control and he is permitting. He is permitting evil, but he is not the one injuring. He is not the one hurting you. And yes, it is right to be bewildered, offended, hurt and crushed. even though God is in control, even though he will redeem but not excuse that evil. But also in remaining committed to love, in finding a way to love, you will find your way out the other side. So here is Christ's final gift to us. He's not unveiling here the mysteries of God at work in the universe and giving his passion and all that leads up to it as this lens to understand our own suffering. But just as he has shown us to go through with prayer, he shows us also how to go through here with practical deeds of love. You genuinely will find yourselves at times stuck. You don't know what to do. You don't know what to think. And Jesus is showing, you just find some way, someone to love, and like a little golden thread, it will lead you until you are out the other side. Amen.